Hello guys, welcome to my channel Lucid Fanfic, and if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest videos. So be sure to stick around until the end, and let's get started. Izuku and the others were busy discussing what they would acquire next in their young adventuring journey. At the same time, Kinro and Jinro engaged in a lively conversation among themselves as they practiced with their training weapons. You know, Kinro, I bet we would perform a lot better if we had a silver and a golden spear, don't you think? Said Jinro, as Kinro looked at him with annoyance and skepticism. Do you want me to hit you? Said Kinro, his tone slightly irritated. Come on, think about it. If we had those special, gleaming spears, it would surely motivate us to do our very best and improve our skills, right? Said Jinro. Soon, Jinro and Kinro approached Izuku and his friends, nervously asking him to craft the spears they needed for their training. Are you guys serious? Kahaku exclaimed, cracking her knuckles confidently as Nikki nodded beside her. Her expression was stern, indicating she was ready to enforce discipline if necessary. Jinro and Kinro were sweating profusely, visibly anxious about Kahaku and Nikki's seriousness. Fine, but I'll only make the silver spear, Izuku replied reluctantly, raising an eyebrow in surprise at their determined request, which caught them off guard. Wait, really? Asked Kahaku, her eyes wide with surprise. Izuku nodded thoughtfully, adding, yeah, besides, it will come in handy for getting one of the things we need for the medicine. He then carefully took Jinro's spear, gripping the wooden shaft firmly, and coated the blade in shimmering silver, ensuring it was thoroughly covered. Jinro's face lit up with pride and happiness at Izuku's actions. Meanwhile, Kinro was visibly disappointed, his shoulders slumping slightly. Chrome looked up at the scene and asked skeptically, wait, so is the spear necessary? Izuku confirmed with conviction, yep, that spear can save our lives. Where we're heading, we could very well lose them. The gravity of the situation sank in quickly. Everyone was shocked by this revelation, and Gonto trembled in fear, his body shaking as he processed the dangerous journey ahead. Soon, Izuku, Kahaku, Chrome, and Jinro embarked on their journey toward the ominous destination, their steps cautious yet determined. Chrome glanced around nervously, asking, so, is the place we are going really that dangerous? Izuku nodded grimly, replying, yeah, one misstep could mean our end. Luckily, the silver spear will warn us if danger is near. Jinro, if you don't get your butt up here and take this seriously, I swear I'm going to beat the ever-living hell out of you. Meanwhile, Jinro lagged, clutching the shimmering silver spear. I am just covering the rear to make sure we are safe, said Jinro nervously, his voice trembling as he glanced over his shoulder towards the dark forest behind them. That is when Kahaku approached him, her footsteps light but firm. If you're going to be a coward, then hand me the spear, said Kahaku, extending her right arm confidently towards him, her eyes sharp and impatient. No, I can do it, said Jinro, summoning his courage as he stepped forward with his spear held defensively in front of him, its tip gleaming faintly in the dim light as he faced the approaching threat. Soon, they reached the location, which was a sight to behold. They cautiously descended the winding path, Kahaku feeling a growing sense of unease. Wow, this place looks incredible, said Chrome, gazing at the shimmering surroundings. Yeah, but like I said, we need to be careful, replied Izuku, his tone warning. Jinto appeared momentarily lost in a trance, his eyes unfocused as he headed toward the center of the area. Suddenly, the silver spear in his hand glinted ominously and turned black. Jinro, move, you idiot! Izuku shouted sharply, grabbing Jinro by the back of his shirt and yanking him backward. The sudden movement startled the birds nearby, causing them to take flight in a frantic flurry. As the group watched in horror, the birds circled overhead before plunging into the center of the spring. In an instant, the water sputtered and splashed violently, and they saw their bodies begin to melt away amidst a sinister, glowing haze, leaving behind a chilling scene of horror. Come, let's go. We need to prepare, said Izuku as they all hurriedly ran out of the mysterious location and returned to the edge of the village, where the others anxiously wondered what had transpired. What was that place? Asked Chrome, eyes wide with curiosity. That was one of the key components we need to create the cure-all toxin, and it was the most dangerous sulfuric acid. Even the gas it creates will kill you. It was discovered by a renowned alchemist centuries ago, and it laid the foundation for many chemical industries, from medicine to industrial manufacturing, explained Izuku, his voice tinged with concern and urgency. Wow, that sounds truly awesome, said Chrome, a wide grin spreading across his face as he leaned forward eagerly. Wait, you know what he's saying? Asked Nikki, her brow furrowing in curiosity. No, but if that one person managed to be remembered after so many years, they must have been truly extraordinary, said Chrome, eyes sparkling with admiration. So what will you do? Are you guys risking your lives? Asked Suka, her voice trembling with concern. I don't care about my life as long as I can save Ruri. If obtaining that sulfur is the only way to do it, then I'll go after it. I should be quick enough to get in and out before the poisonous gas starts to fill the area, said Kahaku, determination flashing in her eyes. Don't even think about it. You may be fast, but that won't help, said Izuku, recounting the story of a man and his student climbing a snow-capped mountain. He explained that sulfur gas, being heavier than air, generally remained closer to the ground, making the air above safer. However, during their ascent, the man stopped to tie his shoe. Tragically, just a second later, he was overtaken by a pocket of sulfur gas that proved fatal. Everyone stood in tense silence as the heavy realization sank in, each person's face reflecting despair. It was nothing short of a miracle that they had managed to make it back alive, battered but unbroken. Chrome broke the silence with a grim expression, saying, "So what do we do now if we don't get that sulfuric acid? Then there is no way we can cure Ruri," implying the urgency of their situation. Izuku, trying to remain hopeful, replied, "Take it easy. I didn't say it was impossible. We can get the sulfuric acid. All we need is to make gas masks to protect ourselves from the fumes. F it, if Momo were here, she could whip some up quickly. But since she's not, we'll have to make them ourselves, which isn't that hard if we follow the proper procedures." The others sighed with relief upon hearing Izuku's reassurance, feeling a renewed sense of purpose and solidarity. They then carefully began working on crafting the gas masks, a process that didn't take too long due to the urgent circumstances. Jinro was trembling on the ground, visibly frightened, as he was so close to death, an understandable reaction given the life-threatening situation. No one could blame him for his fear. The next morning, Izuku and his team finished constructing the gas masks and also created glass canisters to store the sulfuric acid, ensuring safe handling and secure storage. Chrome held up the now black-tipped spear, its surface coated in darkness. "We need the spear, but it's all black now," he remarked, examining the weapon closely. Izuku stepped forward confidently, smiling. "That's an easy fix." He carefully dipped the blackened tip of the spear into a container of liquid, watching as the dark coating dissolved away, restoring the tip to its original shiny silver color, gleaming in the early morning light. "Looks like we are good to go, but we need to make one more for giving Jinro, and then we'll head back to the spring," said Izuku. "No, I'm not going," said Jinro firmly. "It will be okay. We have these gas masks," said Chrome reassuringly, holding them up. "No, I'm not going, and none of you can make me. I'm staying here," said Jinro defiantly. "Should have known when things got difficult, you would chicken out." "I'm surprised you were a guard for the bridge in the first place," said Nikki with a hint of disappointment, as Jinro remained silent. Izuku and Chrome then left for the spring, their expressions a mix of concern and determination. Time skip. Izuku and Chrome stood by a serene, shimmering spring in a lush forest clearing. Chrome was trembling with anxiety, clutching his hands nervously. "I can do this. The mask should work, but..." He hesitated, doubt clouding his eyes. That was when Izuku jogged confidently toward the spring, his expression calm and determined, unshaken by fear. "Izuku, what the hell are you doing?" yelled Chrome, panic evident in his voice. "If we just stand around here dreading it, we'll achieve nothing," Izuku firmly responded. Realizing the truth in Izuku's words, Chrome summoned his courage, took a deep breath, and began gathering as much sulfuric acid as possible from the surrounding area, the sunlight glinting off the bubbling liquid. After meticulous effort, Izuku and Chrome gathered more than enough sulfuric acid for their plan. Chrome glanced at Izuku and asked, "Hey, Izuku, do you think we have enough?" Izuku nodded confidently and replied, "Yeah, I believe so. Let's head back now." As Chrome was making his way to follow him, he suddenly stepped on an uneven patch of ground. Without warning, a section of the earth beneath him crumbled, causing him to plunge downward toward the bubbling, corrosive sulfuric acid pool below. Izuku quickly activated his quirk, extending his hand to save him. Unfortunately, he was still too far away to reach Chrome in time. Just then, a silver spear shot through the air, targeting Chrome. Chrome caught the spear instinctively, revealing Jinro wearing a gas mask and wielding the weapon. Realizing the danger, Izuku swiftly reached them and grabbed the spear from Chrome's grasp, pulling it back to prevent harm. Relief washed over him as Chrome, unscathed, stepped back on his solid ground, safe from the deadly acid's reach. "Thanks, Jinro, but I thought you said you weren't coming," said Chrome, his voice tinged with surprise. "It's thanks to old man Kasuki," said Grinro, smiling gratefully. "He gave me the courage to come here, after all." Soon, Izuku and the others returned to the edge of the village, where Kahaku and the others eagerly gathered to greet them. As they approached, Izuku's eyes caught sight of Shinso, sitting up and stretching, looking surprisingly alert after his ordeal. Izuku's face lit up with happiness as he realized his friend was all right. "I can't believe it. We can finally make the medicine to save Ruri," said Kahaku, a mixture of relief and excitement in her voice. "Not so fast. Don't you remember there are still a few crucial steps before that?" said Nikki, raising a cautious hand. Kahaku nodded, recalling the lengthy process involved. "I remember it being long," she admitted. "Don't worry, we have all the key components now. All that remains is to fill in the dark part of the formula, and we are nearing completion today," said Izuku confidently, holding a beaker. Izuku and the others worked tirelessly all day, meticulously navigating complex obstacles and challenges. During this time, Izuku carefully synthesized various dangerous chemicals, including concentrated sulfuric acid and a volatile compound called ammonia, which he kept under strict safety protocols. Kahaku was visibly displeased, scolding Izuku sternly and insisting there was no way he could make Ruri handle such hazardous substances. Izuku explained that these chemicals were essential for producing a vital medication. It was a quiet night as the group finished their tasks, with everyone settled into sleep on the soft, grassy ground beneath the open sky. They were only missing one final item they needed to complete their mission, which they planned to acquire after the upcoming battle tomorrow. Meanwhile, Izuku perched on a sturdy tree branch, gazing up at the shimmering stars above. He was mentally preparing himself, eager to avenge Shinso's injury. Clenching his fists, he whispered to himself with determination, "I hope you're ready, Magma, because I'm about to show you what happens when you go after my friend." With that, Izuku activated a small portion of his quirk, readying himself for the confrontation ahead. The sun rose in the clear blue sky, casting a warm glow over the bustling training grounds as Izuku and the others prepared mentally for the upcoming challenge. Today was the day of the final bout, the crucial obstacle standing between them and retrieving the coveted alcohol they sought. Izuku's eyes burned with determination, partly fueled by the desire for victory and partly by his need to confront Magma for his prior mistreatment of Shinso. Izuku and the others carefully made their way across a worn, rickety bridge that stretched over a rushing river, winding through a dense, ancient village with narrow cobblestone streets and thatched roof cottages. As they moved forward, villagers and travelers alike turned their heads to stare at Izuku, their eyes filled with curiosity and suspicion. Who could blame them? Soon, they reached the grand arena, a massive amphitheater carved into the rocky terrain, prepared for a fierce showdown. At the center, the ground was boiling with molten magma that bubbled ominously beneath a thin crust of cracked stone. As the team arrived, they saw Magma, a towering figure cloaked in flowing lava like robes, smirking confidently. Well, looks like you decided to show up," Magma said, his voice echoing with heat. "But without that sorcerer, you can't defeat me," he added, casting a steely glare at Kahaku, who responded with a fierce glare of her own, her eyes blazing with determination. That moment arrived when Izuku confidently approached Magma, his expression firm. He pointed an accusatory finger and said, "Big talk coming from someone who attacked a person using an ambush just because he was scared, like a coward." Magma stepped closer, his face inches from Izuku's, and retorted sharply, "Who are you to talk to me like that?" Izuku's eyes narrowed as he responded with unwavering resolve. "I'm the guy who's going to beat your sorry arse into the ground and make you whine like the beach you are." The tension in the air grew thick, and everyone nearby could feel the electrifying atmosphere of confrontation and challenge. "Okay, that's enough, both of you. Whatever problem you have, you can settle it in the bout," said one of the referees firmly, signaling for the tension to subside. Magma scoffed dismissively at Izuku, a smirk curling on his lips as he turned away disdainfully. The announcer then clarified the matchups, revealing with a hint of anticipation that the first fight would feature Kinro stepping into the ring against Magma, setting the stage for an intense showdown. Izuku and the others returned to their makeshift camp after the intense encounter, gathering around to discuss their next strategic move. Izuku carefully pulled out a small, weathered bottle filled with a bright yellow liquid, its surface shimmering under the campfire's glow. Alongside it, he revealed a bowl filled with various lush green plants known for their revitalizing properties. As they deliberated, Jinro eagerly drank the entire yellow potion, then mindlessly munched on the plants as they turned towards him, oblivious to the others' concern. Suddenly, Izuku and Kinro swiftly reached out and smacked Jinro on the head, causing him to flinch and stumble, leaving noticeable bumps. "You idiot. That potion was for all of us," Kinro scolded firmly, his eyes narrowing in frustration. "Well, since you're going against Magma, it's up to me to handle the rest," said Jinro confidently, stepping forward with a determined look on his face. This daring declaration prompted Kahaku and Nikki to hit him over the head, causing him to crash to the ground. "Fat chance you chicken Izuku is going to pull through. Unlike you," snarked Nikki. We don't have enough of the plant," complained Izuku as Jinro casually ate the remaining ingredients, oblivious to their concern. "Don't worry, I'll go get some more, even though I'm not participating in the bout. I still want to help," said Suka kindly, her voice filled with resolve as she turned to head down to the river. Time had passed, as it was time for the bout to begin. "Suka, where are you?" Kahaku asked anxiously as Izuku approached her. "What's wrong?" Izuku inquired with concern, noticing her worried expression. "I can't find Suka anywhere. She was supposed to be back by now with the plants." "Have you seen her?" Kahaku said with a tone of worry. "No, but don't worry. I'm sure she just got more than she could carry," Izuku suggested, trying to keep the uncertainty out of his voice as he looked around, scanning the busy surroundings for any sign of Suka. "I hope so, but I can't shake the feeling that something's off." Kahaku spoke quietly as they readied themselves, their nerves tingling with anticipation as they headed towards the arena. Suddenly, Mantle sprinted towards them, his face flushed and eyes wide with urgency. Meanwhile, Kahaku and Nikki hurriedly informed Izuku that he idolized Magma and would do anything to impress him. "What do you want, Mantle?" asked Chrome, his voice tense with suspicion. "It's terrible. I saw Suka down by the lake. She fell into the water while she was gathering plants for you guys," Mantle exclaimed, voice trembling with distress. Everyone else looked worried and confused, but Izuku remained unusually calm and unbothered. "Oh, really? Then tell me, how did you know she was collecting those plants for us?" Izuku challenged Mantle, narrowing his eyes. The atmosphere grew tense as Mantle hesitated, trying to come up with a plausible excuse. Before he could speak, Izuku suddenly lunged forward, grabbing Mantle and lifting him by the neck, his expression fierce and commanding. "If you lay a single finger on Suka, I will make you pay," said Izuku firmly as he tightened his grip around Mantle's neck, causing him to struggle for air. His eyes blazed with fury, veins popping on his forehead. Meanwhile, Kahaku turned to Nikki with a determined look, saying, "We'll go check you guys' head-to-head match next." Without waiting for a response, Kahaku motioned for Nikki to follow her, and they quickly disappeared from sight. Chrome stepped forward, placing a steadying hand on Izuku's shoulder. "Come, Izuku, he's not worth it," he urged. Izuku hesitated for a moment, his jaw clenched, then nodded slowly. However, in a sudden burst of strength and anger, he slammed Mantle down onto the ground with enough force to create a small crater beneath him. The impact knocked Mantle out instantly. Izuku then released his grip and turned away sharply, rushing off toward the upcoming bout, determination etched into his features. Kahaku and Nikki reached the peaceful riverbank, where the gentle flow of water reflected the bright sunlight. There, they saw Suka tied to a sturdy oak tree, her small frame struggling against the coarse ropes. They hurried over and quickly began to free her, their movements swift and careful. "I'm sorry Mantle got me by surprise, and now you two won't be able to enter the bout," Suka said softly, a flicker of worry in her eyes. "It's okay, Suka," Kahaku assured her warmly. "We're just glad you're safe. Besides, I doubt anybody could beat Izuku," he added with confidence as they started walking back toward the village. As they moved, they glanced back and saw Mantle sprawled on the ground, unconscious in a small crater, his body sprawled awkwardly. They knew instinctively it was Izuku's doing, a testament to his strength. Once they stepped into the large, bustling arena where the intense bout was taking place, they immediately saw Kinro struggling against Magma's fierce attacks. Suka, recalling that Kinro also suffered from the fuzzy eye sickness that sometimes impaired his vision, quickly tossed her melon helmet toward him. Kinro caught it, slipping it onto his head just as Magma launched a powerful attack toward him. To everyone's astonishment, Kinro skillfully countered Magma's attack with remarkable ease. Seizing the moment, Kinro then launched a series of rapid strikes, hitting Magma all over his arms and torso with his sturdy bow staff. The barrage drove Magma back until he was on the ground, with the end of Kinro's bow staff pressed firmly against his forehead. Kinro looked directly at Magma and spoke with conviction. "Listen well, Magma. If I had this gift of science before, if I had this vision, I would have surpassed you a long time ago, Magma. Unfortunately, I broke the rules and used an item outside the ring," said Kinro as he approached the referee. He was slightly nervous, aware of the potential consequences. "Well, you know it's true, but you didn't use it as a weapon. At most, it's just something you wear, so it's all good," the referee responded, trying to sound reassuring. However, that was the moment he noticed Magma behind Kinro, as Magma struck Kinro in the back of the head with his weapon, a heavy club. The impact shattered Suka's melon, causing it to burst open and splatter juice everywhere, while Kinro staggered and hit the ground, bleeding from the effects of the weapon to his head. "That was a dirty move, Magma," yelled Chrome, her voice tinged with anger as she shook her head in disbelief. "So what? That's what he gets for being a goody two-shoes and for turning his back on me?" he yelled, glaring at the opponent. "I bet he's going to get disqualified," said Chrome confidently, crossing her arms. "He won't, as the match wasn't over. It's unfortunate, but those are the rules," said Yukio calmly as he observed the scene unfold. "I'm surprised you didn't enter the bout," said Kahaku, raising an eyebrow in curiosity. "Close combat is not my strong suit, and besides, I doubt I would get far even if I did enter," Yukio replied with a slight shrug, his gaze lingering on Izuku, who was watching the fight intently. The referee carefully carried Kinro over to their group, ensuring he was steady on his feet. Meanwhile, Jinro hurriedly went to check on his brother, his brow furrowed with concern. Izuku, standing a few meters away, focused his gaze on Magma, who was drinking water and catching his breath after the intense fight. Magma looked up at Izuku with piercing eyes and asked, "What do you want?" Izuku's expression hardened as he responded, "You'd better rest well, Magma. Thanks to your henchmen, Kahaku and Nikki couldn't join us. When Jinro finishes his match, it'll be just the two of us. And when it's just us, I swear I will make you regret crossing me." With a determined glare, Izuku turned and walked back to check on Kinro, his mind already strategizing for what was to come. Soon, Izuku carefully patched up Kinro's wounds, his hands steady despite the tense atmosphere. It was now Jinro's turn to step into action. "All right, Jinro, you're up." "Good luck," Izuku said, offering a supportive nod. "Haha, don't worry about me. After all, we will win this bout, and we need to use everything we've got," Jinro replied confidently, chewing enthusiastically on the raw ingredients to prepare the potion. Chrome, eyes narrowing in disbelief, asked, "Have you seriously been saving the chewed-up ingredients in your cheeks this whole time?" The others looked at him in stunned silence, their expressions a mix of disbelief. "Yep, I have been saving it for my match, and now it's time for me to use it," said Jinro as he swallowed the chewed-up ingredients from his cheek, feeling a surge of energy coursing through his body. That was the moment Jinro started to feel its effects. the increased strength and adrenaline awakening within him. "Ready, begin," said the referee with a sharp blow of the whistle as Jinro and his opponent charged at each other with fierce determination. Jinro's muscles began to expand visibly, tearing through his already tight shirt, veins bulging with raw power. "I feel it. Overwhelming power surging through me. I am invincible," said Jinro as his opponent threw a punch, which he instinctively dodged. Despite the attack, Jinro remained unfazed, and his opponent pressed on, attacking again with the same aggressive momentum. "Huh, is that all you got?" "I barely felt a thing," said Jinro confidently, as he stood completely unharmed with not a scratch on him, a smirk forming on his face. Unfortunately, that was all in Jinro's head. In reality, Jinro's face was bruised and swollen, with a large, dark bump forming on the top of his head. His entire body was riddled with multiple bruises of varying shades of purple and black, evidence of the intense physical struggle he had endured. Despite this, he was still standing upright, visibly determined but exhausted. "What is happening? Why won't he go down?" asked Kinro, worry etching his face as he observed Jinro's resilience. "Oh, that's because this is his first time trying caffeine. He's wired out of his mind, making him think he got some power up. Of course, I made it for him and Chrome. But hey, I'm not complaining about the result," said Izuku, smirking knowingly, as he watched Jinro with a mix of amusement and concern. "What is going on?" exclaimed Jinro's opponent as he nervously backed away from Jinro, whose intense gaze and poised stance kept him rooted. Realizing he was cornered at the edge of the ring, the opponent's eyes widened with panic, knowing that any misstep meant falling into the ocean below. Seizing the moment, Jinro swiftly pushed his opponent with a calculated force, causing him to tumble out of the ring and land with a splash in the churning water beneath the makeshift arena. "Winner Grinro," said the referee as Grinro raised his hand triumphantly, a broad smile spreading across his face. However, the jubilation quickly faded when Grinro's stomach began to rumble loudly, signaling discomfort. He clutched his abdomen, his face contorting with embarrassment, and abruptly sprinted out of the ring. He then crossed the wooden bridge that connected the arena to the dense woods beyond, disappearing into the shadows. "Poor guy, he probably has a case of the runs," commented Suko with a sympathetic shrug. "Well, that's what happens when you chug a bunch of caffeine before a match," added Izuku, shaking his head with amusement. After a while, Jinro staggered back into view, his appearance remarkably disheveled and resembling a battered mummy, as he slumped heavily to the ground, breathing raggedly. Chrome turned his gaze toward Izuku, his expression cautious. "You were going to have to drink what he had," Chrome said, voice tinged with concern. "Yep, but it wouldn't be this bad. The reason Jinro is like that is because he consumed a large amount of caffeine," explained Izuku. He then reached into his bag, pulled out a clear bottle of water infused with electrolytes, and handed it to Kinro. "He'll be good as new if you give him some electrolytes to rehydrate him," Izuku added reassuringly. "It's time for the next match. Fighters, get ready," announced the referee, his voice resonating through the bustling arena. Izuku, his eyes sharp with anticipation, stood poised, his muscles tensing in excitement. As the signal was given, Izuku and Magma stepped into the center of the ring. Izuku, with a confident smirk, called out, "Hey ref, can I use my fists instead of a weapon?" "Well, there are no rules that say otherwise. Oh, and one more thing, you cannot use your powers, only physical strength." Izuku nodded thoughtfully, prepared to engage in a pure test of skill and strength. "Both fighters are ready to begin," the referee announced, his voice steady and focused as the crowd fell silent in anticipation. Izuku stood confidently, his fists clenched, eyes locked on Manga. He taunted him sharply, daring him to make the first move. "Why, you little trash, I'll break every bone in your body," Manga snarled, gripping his rugged wooden weapon tightly. With a fierce cry, he swung the makeshift club toward Izuku's torso. Izuku, alert and swift, sidestepped to the right, avoiding the blow. Seizing his chance, he shifted his left foot forward, planting it firmly on the ground in front of Manga. The move caused Manga to lose his balance, stumbling forward and falling face first onto the dirt floor with a thud, his weapon skittering away from him. Magma quickly recovered from his fall and sharply swung his weapon towards Izuku, who who effortlessly blocked the strike with his forearm and smoothly dodged the subsequent attacks. "Stop dodging and fight me," Magma growled, aiming his heavy, metallic gun directly at Izuku's head, the barrel glinting ominously in the light. "I thought you never asked," Izuku said confidently, ducking just in time as the gun's muzzle nearly grazed his scalp. Seizing the moment, he extended his left leg swiftly and delivered a powerful elbow strike to Magma's stomach, forcing him to drop his wooden mace and stumble backward, clutching his abdomen in pain. Without hesitation, Izuku grasped Magma's head with both hands, pulling him down to eye level, then drove his knee hard into Magma's nose, breaking it and causing blood to stream down his face, staining his skin and the ground beneath them. Magma hit the ground with a loud, heavy thud, kicking up dust and debris around him. Not wasting a moment, Izuku swiftly climbed on top of him, his muscles tensing with determination. He began to throw powerful, rapid punches aimed at Magma's upper torso and face, each blow landing with a sharp impact. Magma raised his arm to shield his face and protect his vital areas as best as he could, but Izuku's punches were relentless, heavy, and swift, making it difficult for Magma to defend. Desperate to turn the tide, Magma threw a wild punch toward Izuku, intending to incapacitate him. Izuku, noticing the attack, jumped back just in time as Magma's punch missed by inches. At this critical moment, Izuku was only 2 feet away from Magma, who was struggling to regain his footing, sweat and dirt smeared across his face and arms as he tried to get back up. Once he was up, Magma's body was covered in bruises of various shades, deep purple, green, and yellow, evidence of the brutal hits he had taken. "Come on, where did all that bravado go, Magma?" taunted Izuku, a teasing smirk on his face as Magma veins pulsated visibly in his forehead, now contorted with fury. His eyes burned with rage, and his body tensed in anticipation of another attack. Magma reared his right arm back, muscles clenched, and threw a powerful punch directly at Izuku's chest. However, Izuku anticipated the move, sidestepping and swiftly head-butting Magma in the face. Magma's head snapped backward with a sickening crack, his already broken nose bleeding profusely, and he let out a pained yell while clutching his face with both hands. Seizing the moment, Izuku quickly reared his arm again, pivoting to focus his strike precisely on Magma's ribcage. With calculated force, he delivered a devastating punch aimed at Magma's liver, causing him to double over in agony. Almost instantly, Magma fell to the ground with a thud, clenching his teeth tightly as a wave of searing pain shot through his body. His muscles contracted involuntarily, and his body curled inwards in an instinctive defensive posture, as he had never felt pain like this before. His entire body was immobilized by the agony, leaving him helpless. Izuku quickly moved to seize his right arm, grabbing it firmly but carefully to avoid causing further damage. "I told you I would make you suffer," Izuku snarled with a cold, menacing tone, as a sickening crack echoed loudly through the air. Magma's face contorted in pure agony as he yelled, deafened by the pain, while Izuku forcibly broke Magma's arm, adding cruel precision to his assault. Izuku decisively grabbed Magma's tangled, sweat-drenched hair, yanking him backward as he launched a flurry of furious punches directly into Magma's bloodied face. Each punch struck with brutal force, causing Magma's lips to split and blood to spatter, mingling with the sweat and dirt on his skin. Magma, voice trembling and pleading, stammered, "I am sorry, please stop," his eyes wide with fear. Despite the pleas, Izuku's relentless assault continued, fueled by intense emotion and aggression. Suddenly, a commanding voice pierced through the chaos. "Izuku, that's enough," it said firmly from the crowd. Hearing this, Izuku froze mid-punch, his clenched fists trembling, and slowly realized the voice belonged to Shinso. Izuku's gaze shifted to Shinso, then down to Magma, whose swollen face was marred with cuts, blood streaming from his mouth and nostrils. Carefully, Izuku released his grip on Magma's hair, backing away with his shoulders hunched, his back now turned away from Magma. But in a sudden surge, Izuku pivoted and executed a powerful roundhouse kick, connecting sharply with Magma's jaw. The force of the kick sent Magma's body spinning through the air, limbs flailing, before he crashed onto the ground, unconscious. The crowd gasped at the ferocity of the attack. Izuku stood motionless for a moment, breathing heavily, then muttered, "Now it's done," as his chest rose and fell with exertion. The referee promptly approached Magma, checking for signs of life and relief washing over his face as he confirmed that Magma was still breathing. Turning his attention to the match, the referee declared, "Winner of this match is Izuku," his voice steady despite the tense atmosphere. However, instead of the expected cheers or applause, a heavy silence filled the air. Izuku carefully made his way back to Kahaku and the others, who eagerly greeted him with smiles and applause, praising his incredible performance. They briefly exchanged words of encouragement. The men from the village carefully hoisted Magma and brought him to a place where his injuries could be treated. Meanwhile, the other participants, visibly shaken and wide-eyed at the display of power Izuku had unleashed on Magma, quickly dropped out of sight, fear overriding their resolve. The only remaining fighter was Jinro, who was still jittery and hyperactive from an overdose of caffeine. He irrationally believed that Izuku, despite clearly showing exhaustion, had merely been worn out from the intense battle he had fought against Magma. Since the others had dropped out, Izuku and Jinro found themselves standing alone in the center of the arena, surrounded by the curious, sympathetic gazes of the remaining spectators. Jinro, despite the tension, maintained a confident smile. The referee raised his left arm high into the air, locking eyes with Jinro and silently wishing that the impending suffering would be brief. With a clear and commanding voice, the referee announced, "Begin," as he lowered his arm, signaling the start of the fight. "Here I come," said Jinro as he charged at Izuku, who just stood still with a slightly tense posture, his eyes focusing intently on Jinro. Jinro's fists clenched tightly, veins bulging as he pushed himself forward. "I was right. He must be tired after the fight he had with Magma," he thought, noting Izuku's exhausted expression. "Now all that is left is to win, and I'll become the chief," Jinro mused, a flicker of determination in his eyes. "Soon my dream of having a harem will come true," he continued internally, a broad grin spreading across his face. Everyone could tell what he was thinking just by looking at his facial expression, his eyes darting with arrogant confidence, and a mischievous smirk that betrayed his intentions. "Victory is mine," declared Jinro confidently as he swung his sturdy wooden staff downward with force toward Izuku, who effortlessly caught it with minimal effort. Surprised, Jinro exclaimed in disbelief as Izuku employed the ancient scare move, a legendary technique passed through generations, reputed to guarantee victory against male opponents. Izuku swiftly lifted his left leg and delivered a precise, powerful kick into Jinro's groin area. The contact was brutal, causing Jinro intense pain he had never experienced before. The entire arena fell silent as all spectators instinctively covered their lower halves and winced at his suffering. Jinro's body convulsed, his eyes rolled back into his head, and he foamed at the mouth, incapable of even screaming amid his agony. Jinro released his weapon with a grim expression, the pain overwhelming him as he stumbled and fell heavily to the ground, unconscious from the injury. The referee, raising his arm, declared, "The winner and new head chief is Izuku." As the crowd erupted into cheers, their voices echoing through the cleared arena. Once the commotion died down, the villagers began to gather around, their faces a mixture of admiration and curiosity. The current village chief, an aging but wise-looking man, approached Izuku with a sharp, observant gaze, carefully scrutinizing him as if searching for any signs of weakness or fault that might indicate he wasn't worthy of Ruri or the chief's position. Izuku remained undisturbed by the chief's gaze, his expression calm and steady as the chief looked at him with surprise. "Congratulations, young man," the chief declared with a warm smile. "You are now the new village chief, and as is tradition, my daughter is yours." With a gentle nod, Ruri gracefully walked down from her seat atop the carved wooden platform, her delicate footsteps echoing softly on the polished floor. She approached Izuku with a shy smile, and he glanced at her, noticing that she bore a striking resemblance to Kahaku, with similar gentle eyes and a soft, almost translucent complexion. However, he immediately noticed her frailty, her shoulders slightly trembling, and her hand trembling as a villager gently supported her wrist to prevent her from collapsing. The concern surged within Izuku, and he resolved that he must make a cure for her illness as soon as possible, knowing her delicate condition could worsen if left unaddressed. "So, where's the alcohol?" asked Izuku, his eyes searching eagerly. "Oh, ready to start the festivities, are you?" "Well, no worry. They are right here," said the village chief, a tall man with a thick beard, as the other villagers, dressed in simple tunics and carrying various tools, brought out large wooden barrels of aged liquor. That is when Izuku, noticing the gleam of anticipation in his eyes, grabbed 2 barrels and hoisted them effortlessly, the sturdy wood creaking under the weight. "Great. Thank you. Come on. Guys, we need to go," Izuku said excitedly, then ran out of the village along with the others, the sun casting a warm glow on their hurried departure. The villagers were stunned into silence by the shocking news, their faces betraying a mix of confusion and concern. One of them, voice trembling slightly, asked, "So, does this mean Ruri is the first priestess to be rejected?" Another villager shook his head uncertainly, replying, "I don't know." At that moment, Kinro gently placed his hand on the old chief's shoulder, offering reassurance. "Don't worry," Kinro said reassuringly. "I may not know him well, but I do know this about Izuku. He is a trustworthy fellow who always helps those in need." After speaking, Kinro as he grabbed Jinro's right leg and dragged him away to be examined. Meanwhile, Izuku, in a secluded corner, was meticulously working on a remedy for Ruri. The process was intricate and time-consuming, involving careful measurements. By dawn, exhausted but determined, Izuku completed the cure, holding it gently as the first light of morning seeped into the room. Izuku and the others then approached the spot where Ruri was standing, holding the cure toxin carefully wrapped in a green leaf. Meanwhile, Kahaku moved toward her sister with a hopeful expression. "Ruri, good news. We can cure you now," Kahaku announced, surprising Ruri and the others around them. Izuku then stepped forward, presenting the medicine in his hands, which was wrapped securely in a large, sturdy leaf to preserve its potency. Just at that moment, Kokuyo, Ruri's father, rapidly moved in front of Izuku, crossing his arms defensively. "I don't know what you have, but I will not let Ruri take it," he declared firmly, his eyes narrowing as he prepared to protect his daughter. Izuku let out a weary sigh. "Listen carefully," he said firmly, gazing intensively into Kokuyo's eyes. "If she doesn't take this medicine, her condition will worsen significantly, and unless you want to witness her health deteriorate further, you need to act now and move." Before Kokuyo could respond, Ruri interrupted sharply, "Father, move." Her sudden command caught everyone off guard. Izuku gently made her swallow the medicine. "How long will it take to cure her fully?" Kahaku inquired anxiously. Izuku explained calmly, "We need to administer the medicine regularly, at specific intervals, for it to be effective." He then carefully retrieved a clear glass flask from his bag, filled with a faintly glowing liquid, and approached Ruri. Without hesitation, he placed the bottom of the flask against her back, just above her spine, causing Ruri to startle at the unexpected contact. "All right, now make an eep sound," said Izuku, and Ruri did as he asked. He listened carefully, noticing a strange sloshing noise coming from inside her lungs, as if fluid was there. He carefully observed her face for any further signs of distress. As he got up, Izuku thought silently, "This is concerning," to avoid alarming the others. Suddenly, he spotted a dead rat nearby, its fur matted and eyes glassy, and quickly took it with him. "Well, I did what I came here for. I need to return and prepare the next batch," Izuku said, glancing at the others before turning to leave the hut, the weight of the discovery heavy in his mind. Once Izuku returned to the makeshift laboratory, he quickly suited up with protective gear, including gloves and goggles. He carefully placed the small gray rat onto the smooth glass surface of the custom-built lab table, positioning it so its abdomen faced upward, exposing its underside for examination. As the others entered the room, he looked up and asked, "Hey, what are you doing?" "Izuku, are we going to eat the rat?" Kahaku inquired, observing the scene with curiosity. "They are a good source of protein, but no, I'm not eating them. I'm going to perform an autopsy," Izuku replied as he carefully started to cut open the rat's chest with a sharp scalpel, making a precise incision along the sternum and down the length of the rat's body. Once he had cut, he set the scalpel aside on a sterile tray and used fine-tipped tweezers to avoid directly touching the rat's internal organs. He then carefully examined the exposed organs, noting their color, texture, and any abnormalities. Almost instantly, he noticed the rat's lungs were inflamed, swollen, and discolored, with a reddish hue. Once Izuku finished his procedure, he carefully submerged the tweezers and scalpel into a sterilizing disinfectant solution to eliminate any remaining bacteria. He then wrapped the dead rat in a thick, coarse cloth to contain any residual contaminants before tossing it into the nearby fire to ensure complete disposal. "I need to narrow down the cause," Izuku said, sparking confusion among the others. "What do you mean, Izuku?" Nikki asked nervously. "The medicine we developed is highly effective, but only against bacterial infections. If this is a viral case, then it's more serious than we initially believed," Izuku replied thoughtfully. At that moment, a villager darted toward them, panting heavily. "Come quickly," the villager urged urgently. Without hesitation, Izuku and the others rushed to the small hut where Ruri lay on the ground, coughing uncontrollably and clutching her throat with trembling hands. Once they entered the chaotic scene, everyone was engulfed in panic. "Izuku, what's happening?" Kahaku asked urgently, her voice trembling. At that moment, Kokuyo suddenly placed his right hand firmly around Izuku's neck, suspicion and anger flashing in his eyes. "What did you do to her?" Kokuyo demanded, his tone sharp and furious. "Father, enough. This isn't the time for this," Kahaku intervened, trying to calm the situation. Izuku gently moved Kokuyo's hand away from his neck, his expression calm but alert. "I'm letting this slide for now, but if you do that again, I will be forced to defend myself," Izuku warned, stepping past Kokuyo to check on Ruri and observe her reaction. "The bacteria are multiplying together with the good bacteria to mount a counterattack against the medicine. Looking at her condition, I now understand what she has. Ruri has pneumonia. It's no small matter. Back in the day, before my time, pneumonia claimed millions of lives. But our new toxin effectively treats pneumonia. We have triumphed through the power of science," Izuku said confidently, clenched fist raised in victory. Everyone around him was filled with relief and joy at the news. "Now that we know what she has, we just need to administer more of the toxin, and she will recover fully," Izuku said confidently as Kokuyo lunged at him aggressively. "Enough of this. You are causing her suffering," yelled Kokuyo, attempting to punch Izuku with a clenched fist. Izuku swiftly grabbed his wrist to halt the attack, then responded by thrusting his left hand toward Kokuyo's face, using the momentum to slam him forcefully into the ground. "I warned you," Izuku said firmly as he stood up, eyes locked on Kokuyo. Over the past few days, Izuku and his allies carefully prepared the medicinal toxin, which they administered to Ruri. Her condition then improved dramatically, indicating recovery. Later, Izuku, Ruri, Kahaku, and the others found themselves in a tranquil, open flower field located a short distance from the village. Ruri slowly walked among the vibrant blooms, intensely appreciating the endless view that stretched before her. Meanwhile, Kahaku and the rest of their group were overwhelmed with joy, tears streaming down their faces as they witnessed her recovery and the peaceful surroundings. "It's been such a long time since I felt this gentle breeze, and I can run with ease," said Ruri, her face brightening as she sprinted through the vibrant flower field, petals swaying around her. "Hey, take it easy. Your body still needs to adjust," Izuku called out, his smile warm and encouraging. Soon, Kahaku threw her arms around Izuku in a heartfelt hug. Thank you, Izuku," Kahaku stammered, her cheeks flushed with gratitude, as Nikki nodded in agreement. "Hey, come on now. I only did what I would do for anyone in need," Izuku replied humbly, his eyes gentle but resolute. Izuku was perched atop the thatched roof hut, while Kahaku and Nikki stood nearby with Ruri, all eager to discuss something important soon. Shinso was on a neighboring section of the roof, next to Izuku. "Can't believe you did it. You managed to create a modern toxin in the Stone Age," Shinso remarked with astonishment. "Hey, it wasn't just me," Izuku replied modestly. "You guys helped a lot. Honestly, if it hadn't been for your support, it would have taken much longer to develop the toxin." So, what are you going to do now? Asked Shinso. Well, we still have some alcohol left over, and I plan to combine it with the nitric acid from the cave to create a liquid that can break the pretrefaction process in others, explained Izuku. It sounds complicated, but I believe you can do it. If you need help, just let us know, Shinso replied, standing up and walking down to the others. Hey, Izuku, come down here, called Kahaku as Izuku smoothly got up from his sitting position and jumped off the hut, grabbing a sturdy tree branch to steady himself before landing softly on the ground. Hey, is everything okay? Izuku asked with concern in his voice. Yeah, we're fine. Actually, we have a question, replied Nikki, glancing at him with curiosity. Yeah, what is it? Izuku inquired, folding his arms slightly. Kahaku hesitated for a moment before asking. Well, what do you think of Ruri? Izuku thought for a moment, then replied. Well, I haven't known her for very long, but from what I've seen, she's resilient and kind-hearted, always willing to help others. Well, do you think you would be interested in being with her if it were your choice and not because of the bout? Asked Kahaku, her eyes searching for any hint of genuine feeling behind his indifferent tone. Well, I suppose I need to get to know her a bit better first, but I have to talk to someone else before making any moves, said Izuku, unaware that Ruri was a tree nearby, silently listening to their conversation and blushing intensely. Meanwhile, in an open field, a weathered stone statue stood solitary under the gray sky. Suddenly, a vibrant blue jay swooped down and landed on the statue's shoulders, pecking at its surface. As the bird moved along the statue's torso, a sudden crack echoed through the air when the stone around its face splintered, sending fragments tumbling to the ground. The figure within the statue exerted immense force, causing the remaining stone to explode outward like a shotgun blast. Some shards pierced the blue jay's body, and it collapsed to the ground, lifeless. The figure looked around carefully and saw no one in sight, only an expanse of trees and dense foliage stretching as far as the eye could see. Finally broke free, he muttered, surveying the area. And judging by the absence of any foolish heroes, I wonder if there are any people nearby to kill. Suddenly, he heard a rustling sound behind him. He turned sharply to see a lion emerging from the underbrush, its powerful muscles tense as it roared fiercely at him. Oh, you want to be my first kill? Well then, come here, you overgrown cat, the figure taunted. Without hesitation, the lion launched itself at him, jaws gaping and claws extended. The figure then quickly grabbed the lion by its neck and started to squeeze its neck as the lion tried to fight back. With resistance, the figure lifted its massive body from the ground, intensifying the situation. Let's see just how tough you are, the figure muttered coldly as he balled his fist and punched the lion in the stomach. The punch landed with devastating impact, causing the lion's abdominal muscles to convulse violently and blood to bubble from its mouth. The figure then smirked, a sinister glint in his eyes, deciding to end the ordeal. He tightened his grip, crushing the lion's neck and cutting off its oxygen supply. The lion's eyes rolled back, and its body went limp, finally succumbing to the fatal pressure. Pathetic, I was expecting more from the king of beasts, but oh well. At least you'll make a decent meal, said the figure, who began to remove the lion's skin draped over their shoulders, revealing a rugged, scarred face beneath. They used the discarded skin to cover themselves briefly, then tore into the raw lion meat, its crimson juices gleaming in the dim light. So, this was the end of this series. Stay tuned for next part of this series, and if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.